I refused to pay for my sister's wedding. Days later she came at me with 5 lawyers and a power of attorney. My name is Marcus, and at 34, I never imagined I'd be sitting across from a table of lawyers because I wouldn't fund my sister's dream wedding. What started as a simple no to a $60,000 request turned into the most manipulative family ambush I've ever experienced. Emma and I grew up in Phoenix with our single mom, Patricia. Mom worked double shifts as a nurse at Banner Health to keep us afloat after Dad left when I was 12 and Emma was 8. The abandonment hit Emma harder. She became the baby who could do no wrong, while I stepped into the role of man of the house. Even as kids, our approaches to money were polar opposites. When Mom gave us each $20 for the school book fare, I'd buy one book and save the rest. Emma would spend all 20 on stickers and bookmarks, then ask for more when she saw something else she wanted. High school amplified these differences. I worked at Pizza Hut on weekends and saved every dollar for college. Emma joined every club that required fees: drama club, cheerleading, student government. Mom always found the money somehow, even if it meant skipping her own needs. After graduating high school, I took a gap year to work full-time and help Mom with Emma's expenses. Then I enrolled at Arizona State University, paying my way through community college first to keep costs down. I lived at home, worked nights at Best Buy, and graduated debt-free with a degree in accounting. Emma, meanwhile, got accepted to Northern Arizona University and insisted she needed the full college experience. Despite our tight finances, Mom took out Parent Plus loans to cover Emma's dorm, meal plan, and sorority fees. Emma changed majors 3 times and took 6 years to graduate with a communications degree. While Emma was living it up in Flagstaff, I was building my career. I started at a small accounting firm in Scottsdale, earning $42,000 a year. I lived in a studio apartment, drove a used Honda Civic, and put every extra dollar into savings and investments. When I was 28, Mom was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes that quickly progressed to kidney complications. Her medical bills started piling up even with insurance. Emma, now working sporadically as a social media coordinator for various small businesses, contributed nothing to Mom's care. I moved Mom into a better apartment closer to her dialysis center and took over her finances completely. Between her medical expenses and basic living costs, I was contributing $1,500 a month to keep her comfortable and healthy. Emma's reaction when I told her about the financial arrangement? "Thank God you're so responsible, Marcus. I knew you'd handle it." No offer to help, no acknowledgement of the sacrifice, just relief that someone else was taking care of it. 2 years ago, Emma started dating Derek, a personal trainer at Lifetime Fitness who drove a leased BMW and lived in a luxury apartment in Tempe. Their relationship was Instagram perfect. Constant posts from expensive restaurants, weekend trips to Sedona, and designer shopping hauls. When Emma announced their engagement after 8 months of dating, I was genuinely happy for her. The ring was massive, clearly expensive, and Derek had proposed at the Grand Canyon with a professional photographer capturing every moment. But happiness turned to concern when Emma started describing their wedding plans during a family dinner at Mom's place. "We found the perfect venue," she gushed, showing photos on her phone. "The Phoenician Resort has this gorgeous ballroom that overlooks the valley. The package includes everything: ceremony, reception, flowers, and a 5-course dinner for 200 guests. "That sounds expensive," I said carefully. "It's only $45,000 for the venue and catering," Emma said. "Then we need about $8,000 for photography, $5,000 for her dress, and maybe $7,000 for the wedding party expenses and decorations." I nearly choked on my water. $65,000? "Emma, that's more than most people make in a year." "It's our special day," Derek chimed in. "You only get married once, right, babe? Where are you planning to get that kind of money?" I asked. Emma and Derek exchanged glances. "Well, that's what we wanted to talk about," Emma said. "You've always been so good with money and we know you've been saving up." Over the next few weeks, Emma's hints became increasingly direct. She'd text me links to wedding Pinterest boards with captions like, "Isn't this exactly what I deserve?" She started dropping comments about how I lived, like a monk, in my 1-bedroom apartment while she was finally ready to start her real life. The direct ask came during Mom's birthday dinner at Olive Garden. Emma had prepared a whole presentation on her phone. "Marcus, I need to be honest with you," she said, pulling up a spreadsheet. "Derek and I have looked at our finances, and we can contribute about $15,000 to the wedding from our savings and what Derek's parents can give us." "That's a good start," I said, though I knew where this was heading. "But we need help with the rest." As my brother, and as someone who has been blessed financially, I'm asking you to invest in our future by covering the remaining $50,000. Invest in their future. Like it was a business proposition. Emma, I can't afford to pay $50,000 for your wedding, I said firmly. I'd be happy to contribute $3,000 or $4,000, but that's my limit. Her face crumpled like she was 8 years old again. But Marcus, you have more money saved than anyone I know. You don't have a wife or kids to spend it on. This is the most important day of my life. My savings are for emergencies and retirement, not weddings, I explained. There are beautiful venues that cost a fraction of what you're looking at. Derek jumped in with his own manipulation. Dude, Emma talks about you constantly. You're like her hero. Don't you want to see her happy? Even Mom started applying pressure. Marcus, honey, maybe you could help out a little more? Emma's been dreaming of this since she was little. But I held firm. $4,000 is my final offer. You'll need to find a way to make your budget work. Emma stormed out, Derek following behind. As they left, Emma threw back, I should have known you'd be selfish when it actually mattered. For nearly a month, Emma didn't speak to me. She blocked me on social media and ignored my texts. Mom was caught in the middle, trying to play peacemaker while clearly feeling guilty about the whole situation. Then, out of nowhere, Emma called me on a Wednesday evening. Marcus, I'm sorry about how I acted, she said, her voice surprisingly calm. I was stressed about the wedding planning and took it out on you. Can we meet for coffee this weekend? I want to apologize properly. Something felt off about the sudden attitude change, but I agreed. Emma had never been one to admit fault easily, so maybe Derek had talked some sense into her. Actually, she said, why don't you come over to Derek's apartment on Saturday around 2 p.m.? I'll make that coffee cake you like and we can talk about everything. The invitation to Derek's apartment was the first warning sign I ignored. Emma had never invited me there before. Their relationship had always felt somewhat separate from family. The second red flag was a text from Emma on Friday night. Can you bring your checkbook and any banking information tomorrow? I want to show you some alternative wedding ideas that might work with a family contribution plan. When I mentioned this to my coworker Jake on Friday, he raised his eyebrows. Family contribution plan? Dude, that sounds like financial planning language. Why would your sister suddenly start talking like that? But I wanted to believe Emma was finally being mature about money. Maybe Derek had helped her understand budgeting and realistic planning. The third warning sign came Saturday morning when Derek texted me directly, looking forward to our meeting today. Emma's prepared some documents to show you different options. Documents. Meeting. This wasn't sounding like a casual apology coffee anymore. Derek's apartment complex was one of those luxury places with a concierge and valet parking. Way above what a personal trainer should be able to afford. I parked my Honda next to a row of Mercedes and BMWs, feeling increasingly uneasy. When I knocked on Derek's door, Emma answered with a smile that looked too practiced. Marcus, come in, come in. The apartment was spotless and formally arranged, like they were expecting company. Instead of coffee cake, there was a spread of catered sandwiches and bottled water arranged on the dining table. Where's the coffee cake? I asked. Oh, we decided to get catering instead, Emma said quickly. Derek thought it would be more professional. Professional. That word sent chills down my spine. Derek appeared from the kitchen, also dressed more formally than usual. Marcus, thanks for coming. We have some people we'd like you to meet. That's when I noticed the closed bedroom door and realized we weren't alone in the apartment. Derek opened the door, and 3 people in business attire emerged, 2 men and 1 woman, all carrying leather portfolios. Marcus, I'd like you to meet Jennifer Walsh from Walsh & Associates, Derek said. She's been helping us understand family financial obligations and legal options for wedding funding. My mouth went dry. Legal options? Emma gestured for me to sit at the dining table, where a chair had been positioned across from the 3 lawyers. We've been doing research, Marcus. There are actually legal precedents for family members contributing to major life events when they have the means to do so. I remained standing. What exactly is going on here? Jennifer Walsh, a sharp-looking woman in her 40s, opened her portfolio. Mr. Chin, your sister has consulted our firm about a family financial matter. We understand there's been some disagreement about wedding expenses. There's no disagreement, I said firmly. I offered to contribute what I can afford, and Emma wants more than I'm willing to give. Actually, Walsh continued, there are several factors that complicate this situation. Your sister has provided documentation showing that you've been the primary financial decision-maker for your mother's care and that you have significant assets compared to other family members. She slid a document across the table. This is a family financial responsibility agreement that would formalize your role in supporting family members during major life events. I glanced at the document without touching it. The header read Family Financial Support Agreement, with subsections about proportional contribution requirements and asset-based family obligations. This is insane, I said, looking at Emma. You hired lawyers to force me to pay for your wedding? Emma's practiced calm started cracking. It's not force, Marcus. It's about fairness. You make more money than Derek and me combined. You live like you're broke while we're struggling to start our lives together. You live in a luxury apartment and drive a BMW. I shot back. Those are necessities for Derek's business, Emma said. Clients expect a certain image. One of the male lawyers, who'd introduced himself as Michael Rodriguez, leaned forward. Mr. Chin, this document simply formalizes what you're already doing, supporting family members who need financial assistance. Your sister's wedding is a legitimate family expense. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Let me make sure I understand this. You've ambushed me with lawyers to try to force me to sign a document that obligates me to pay for my sister's $65,000 wedding? It's not an ambush, Derek said defensively. It's a family meeting. With 3 lawyers who weren't mentioned until I walked in the door, I replied. This is absolutely an ambush. Jennifer Walsh tried to regain control. Mr. Chin, your sister and her fiancé are simply asking for fairness. You have the means to help and they have a legitimate need. A $65,000 wedding at a luxury resort is not a need, I said. It's a want. And an expensive one that they can't afford. Emma finally exploded. You've never supported anything that makes me happy. You paid for your own college, your own car, your own everything, and you act like that makes you better than everyone. I worked for those things, I replied. I made sacrifices to build financial security. And now it's time for you to make a sacrifice for family, Emma shot back. Against my better judgment, I picked up the Family Financial Support Agreement and started reading. The terms were even worse than I'd imagined. The document would require me to contribute to major family life events based on my proportional income and assets. It included weddings but also home purchases, medical emergencies, and educational expenses. There was a clause about family asset sharing that would give Emma access to information about my bank accounts and investments to ensure fair distribution of family financial responsibilities. Most disturbing was a section about enforcement mechanisms that would allow other family members to petition the court if I failed to meet my obligations under the agreement. This document would make me financially responsible for Emma's life choices indefinitely, I said, looking up at the lawyers. It's essentially a contract to make me her personal ATM. Rodriguez nodded. Your sister has outlined several upcoming expenses: the wedding, a house down payment, potential future children's expenses. Given your income differential, the contribution structure seems reasonable. Reasonable? I laughed bitterly. I'd be paying for Emma to live a lifestyle I can't even afford for myself. Emma leaned forward desperately. Marcus, please. Derek's parents think I come from a wealthy family because of how you've taken care of Mom. If we can't have a nice wedding, they'll know the truth about our finances. What truth? That you're normal people with normal incomes who should have a wedding you can actually afford. That I'm from a poor family with no support system, Emma said, tears starting. Derek's mom has already made comments about my background. This wedding is my chance to prove I belong in their world. And there it was, the real reason. This wasn't about love or celebration or starting a marriage. This was about Emma's insecurity and her need to impress people who apparently judged her based on her family's wealth. I need to make a phone call, I announced, stepping toward the kitchen. Actually, we'd prefer if you stayed at the table, Jennifer Walsh said quickly. I'm not signing anything today, and I'm not being held hostage in an apartment while you try to pressure me, I replied firmly. I called my friend Ryan, who'd graduated law school the year before and was working for a small firm in Phoenix. Ryan, I need you to come to an address right now. I'm being pressured to sign a legal document by my sister and her lawyers. What kind of document? Ryan asked, immediately alert. Something called a Family Financial Support Agreement that would make me pay for her wedding and other expenses, I explained quickly. Don't sign anything, Ryan said. Text me the address. I'll be there in 20 minutes. When I returned to the table, the mood had shifted. The lawyers were looking less confident, and Emma was arguing with Derek in hushed whispers. My attorney is on his way, I announced. Jennifer Walsh frowned. That's really not necessary, Mr. Chin. This is a family matter. Family matters don't usually require 3 attorneys and legal documents, I replied. Derek stood up abruptly. This is taking too long. Emma, you said he'd be reasonable. Emma's desperation was now fully visible. Marcus, please just sign it. I promise we won't ask for anything unreasonable. Just the wedding costs and maybe help with a house down payment. Emma, listen to yourself. You're asking me to legally obligate myself to fund your entire adult life. Ryan arrived exactly 20 minutes later, professional and immediately suspicious. He reviewed the document while the room sat in tense silence. This is one of the most one-sided agreements I've ever seen, he finally said. Marcus, signing this would essentially make you financially responsible for your sister's lifestyle choices with no limits or reciprocal obligations. He turned to Jennifer Walsh. What legal precedent are you basing this family financial obligation theory on? Walsh looked uncomfortable. There are cases involving family support obligations in certain circumstances. Such as? Ryan pressed. Well, elder care responsibilities, child support obligations. Those involve legal dependence or court orders, Ryan interrupted. There's no legal obligation for siblings to fund each other's weddings or lifestyle choices. Derek was growing increasingly agitated. Look, we don't need a big legal debate. Marcus just needs to help his sister with her wedding. It's not that complicated. Actually, it is that complicated, Ryan replied. Because this document creates ongoing financial obligations that could be enforced in court. It's essentially a contract to make Marcus a permanent funding source for Emma's expenses. Emma broke down completely. Marcus, I've already told everyone the wedding is happening. Derek's parents, my friends, everyone at work. If we have to cancel or downgrade, I'll be humiliated. So instead, you decided to try to legally force me to pay for it, I said. I thought you loved me enough to help, Emma sobbed. I offered to help. I offered $4,000. You rejected that because it wasn't enough to maintain the image you're trying to project. Derek finally showed his true colors. Dude, your sister is trying to better herself, and you're holding her back because you're obsessed with saving money you'll never spend. I'm holding her back by not funding her fantasy lifestyle? I asked incredulously. Yeah, actually, Emma deserves nice things. She deserves a beautiful wedding and a good life. If you cared about her, you'd want that too. Ryan stepped in before I could respond. Mr. Derek Martinez, Derek replied. Mr. Martinez, what you're describing isn't family support, it's financial exploitation. You're asking Marcus to pay for lifestyle choices that you and Emma can't afford yourselves. Jennifer Walsh began packing up her portfolio. Given the circumstances, our firm may need to reconsider our representation in this matter. What circumstances? Emma asked desperately. Your brother's attorney has raised several valid concerns about the legal basis for this agreement, Walsh replied. Without clearer grounds for family financial obligations, this document would be difficult to enforce. The other 2 lawyers were already heading for the door. Wait. Emma called after them. We paid you a $2,000 retainer. Rodriguez paused. Miss Chin, you may want to discuss with your fiancé how that retainer was funded, given what we've learned about your actual financial situation. After the lawyers left, an uncomfortable silence filled the apartment. Where did you get $2,000 for a lawyer retainer? I asked Emma. She looked at Derek, who was staring at his feet. Derek. I pressed. I borrowed it from the gym's petty cash, Derek mumbled. I was going to pay it back after you agreed to help with the wedding. You stole money from your employer to hire lawyers to extort me? I asked, stunned. Emma started crying harder. It's not stealing if he was going to pay it back. That's literally the definition of embezzlement, Ryan said quietly. Over the next hour, the full scope of Emma and Derek's financial problems came out. Derek was 3 months behind on his BMW lease and his luxury apartment rent. Emma had maxed out 4 credit cards paying for engagement photos, the ring, and deposits for wedding vendors. They'd built their entire relationship on maintaining an image they couldn't afford, and my refusal to fund their wedding had exposed the house of cards. We'll have to cancel everything, Emma said between sobs. The venue, the photographer, the caterer. Everyone will know we're frauds. Or, I suggested, you could plan a wedding you can actually afford. Derek shook his head. My parents have already booked flights and hotels. My mom has told everyone at her country club about the Phoenician wedding. Then you'll have to figure out how to pay for it yourselves, I said. With what money? Derek shouted. We're already behind on everything. Maybe you should have thought about that before planning a $65,000 wedding, Ryan observed. I stood up to leave. Emma, I love you, but I won't be manipulated or legally coerced into funding your lifestyle choices. My original offer of $4,000 still stands if you want to plan something realistic. That won't even cover the flowers, Emma said bitterly. Then maybe you need different flowers, I replied. Emma and Derek's relationship ended 2 weeks later. The financial pressure and the failure of their legal gambit exposed fundamental issues in their partnership. Derek moved back in with his parents in Tucson, and Emma had to move back in with Mom. The wedding vendors kept most of their deposits, adding another $8,000 to Emma's debt load. She declared bankruptcy 6 months later, which ironically might have been her best financial decision in years. Emma and I didn't speak for almost a year. When we finally reconciled, it was because Mom had a health scare that put everything in perspective. I'm sorry about the lawyers, Emma said during a quiet moment at the hospital. Derek convinced me it would work, that you'd see it as a business proposition. Emma, what hurt wasn't the money, it was that you tried to use legal force against me instead of just accepting that I couldn't afford what you wanted. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I know. I was so caught up in trying to impress Derek's family that I forgot who I really was. Today, Emma works as an office manager for a dental practice and lives in a modest apartment in Tempe. She's dating a teacher named Mike who drives a Subaru and thinks expensive restaurants are Outback Steakhouse. She seems genuinely happy for the first time in years. We have dinner once a month and she never asks me for money anymore. She's even started contributing $200 a month to Mom's expenses, which means more to me than any apology ever could. Looking back, I realized the lawyer ambush was actually a gift. It showed me exactly how far Emma was willing to go to maintain a facade, and it forced both of us to confront the unhealthy financial dynamics that had developed in our family. I learned that enablement disguised as family loyalty isn't love, it's harm. I learned that people who truly care about you won't try to legally force you to fund their dreams. And I learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is refuse to rescue them from the consequences of their choices. Emma learned that living beyond your means always catches up with you, that authentic relationships don't require expensive performances, and that happiness doesn't come from impressing people who judge you based on your bank account. Most importantly, we both learned that family love should never come with legal documents attached. I'm engaged now to Sarah, a nurse I met through Mom's dialysis clinic. Our wedding will cost about $8,000 and we're paying for it ourselves. Emma has offered to help with decorations, and she genuinely seems excited about celebrating our relationship rather than competing with it. Sometimes the best thing you can do for family is refuse to enable their worst impulses, even when they hate you for it, even when they hire lawyers to try to force you, and even when it means watching them fail. Because real love sometimes means letting people experience the consequences of their choices, so they can learn to make better ones. I chose to protect my financial boundaries and I'd make the same choice again. Even knowing the pain it caused, even knowing the family drama it created, even knowing Emma might never forgive me. Because the alternative, signing that document and becoming Emma's permanent financial safety net, would have helped no one and harmed us both. Sometimes saying no is the most loving thing you can do.